What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mountain Witch Tarot channel. I am your host, Sarah, and today we are talking about Donald Trump, impeachment, removal. What happens? Where is this ship going at this point in time? Before we get started, please take a moment, hit the like button, and subscribe. Stick around if you're new here and you love political divination. We would really love to have you become part of the community. So I'm sharing with you to begin with a reading, kind of a holdover spread from my morning political reading, because I like to just tap in to the energy, before I get started filming. And this one was pretty powerful. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to share this one. I'm going to save it on the table and show it off to everybody because I think there's a pretty serious message here. So once again, we're doing Lenormand and Tarot simultaneously. I love to do it this way. It's amazing how the cards align. And so we've got like a 7-card, pretty simple spread in Lenormand where we've got the center energy is the rat or the mice card. And we know that is kind of a tearing away at something. So the overarching energy of this reading is the destruction of something that leaves a mess in its wake. And doesn't that sound pretty much just exactly like the Trump administration? I mean, that's pretty on point. So for the center energy, I knew we were getting a strong message because that's very accurate. So then over here, we've got the loyalists and the administration side by side. And I don't know if you guys have noticed over the last few months, really for the greater portion of the year, these two have really stayed side by side throughout a lot of things. And I think that's important now because we're seeing them come through with the energy of the stork, which is, a flying away from where you're at, transformation, changing, time to make a move. And then over here, we have the ring, the house, and the clover. And I feel like this is pretty good representation of a change coming. Like, I feel like a limited time, like there's a short amount of time coming through here. And, generally, we reassign these two cards. This is the White House, and this is like Trump's shadowy alliances. This is what, the ring kind of represents in political readings. So regardless of the reassignments, we still kind of have this message of time, a short amount of time coming. And I think it's kind of a double-sided message where it references both the White House and the people that he has made deals with or people that are on his side, not because they care about him or like him, but because they, business partners, business deals, they have to play by his rules for whatever reason. And I just feel like that's coming to an end. And remember, with the overarching energy of the rat or the mice, these things are degraded. They're kind of torn down a little bit and eaten away at over a period of time. And then so I started pulling some tarot cards for it, and I wanted to kind of know what, a little bit of some expansion on this side of the reading. I feel like the administration and the loyalists, they all feel pretty well trapped at this point in a self-made prison. They've kind of put themselves in the position to where they have had to step back and keep their mouth shut and their eyes closed and just trust the process. But the process has got them to a place where they can't really get out of very easily. And then with these two cards, feel pretty strongly about with these two, this is them not knowing where Trump ends and they begin. It's almost like they've lost their identity and they've lost their way from, older times. And with this card and this card, I feel like this is them contemplating how they would like to go their own way again. So very interesting that these two systems are aligning for this particular message because we have the loyalists in the administration looking to fly away, looking to change their location. Figuratively speaking, maybe geographically speaking, but then we have these cards here to confirm it. Now over here, this is really interesting as well. because the Lenormand triplet gave us a little bit of an enigmatic message. And so did tarot, but I think it came through a little clearer with tarot. I think this is the sense of mastering the emotion of the world again and putting things back to the way that they were in the past. I think a lot of people have a lot of fatigue when it comes to Trump. There's so much MAGA fatigue right now. And people, whether they're on the right side of the aisle, the left side, and probably even at this point, the MAGA side, people are tired of it. And they're tired of the back and forth. They're tired of the embarrassments. I think that they are also really tired of having to bend over backwards to explain things away for him, because he keeps making so many mistakes that at this point, Caroline Leavitt's even struggling. And we're going to talk about that in another video. Pretty strong message here that they want things to go back to the way they were before. People are just plain tired of Donald Trump, and that's across the board. Now, this message, these cards chose themselves. They all jumped out together. Anytime that happens, I know that tarot's got something serious to say. So we took these cards, and this is underneath the energy of the mice. We have, the wheel is spinning so fast. Things are moving so quickly. And isn't that true? Like, we're seeing things change on a daily basis at this point. Things are changing at breakneck speed. Every single day we have these huge developments. And this is something I've been telling you guys about this for quite some time. With this mice card here, Donald Trump is going to continually just wind himself down this spiral. It's historical. We've seen it in the past with dictators, and he's, Trump's kind of a soft dictator when you compare it historically. And that's only because America is, was built to be dictator-proof with our checks and balances and things like that. Or do you remember Project Let Him Talk? It didn't obviously have the impact that people hoped that it would have, but it's working now. It's working now. He's really just, the more rope they give him, you know what? He is his own worst enemy. The news cycle, everything that he's doing, it's like every step that he makes right now, where Donald Trump in the past has lived a very charmed life, and that's where he got the name Teflon Don, it's going in reverse. It's going backwards. Every step he makes is a faux pas at this point. It's all happening so quickly. The truth is coming out, and America's spirit is returning. And then we have this of hanging on to this very small amount of worldly stuff. And I feel like this is Donald Trump just every day trying to hang on, and he's not able to. So let's say that Donald Trump does get impeached. My intentions for this spread were, if in the event that he got impeached, what would that look like? What would change? What would happen? What would be the cause? So Tarot's already picked us out a card here. Incidentally, it's one of the cards we had before, and we'll get to it in a minute. Let's take a look at the Lenormand spread real quick. So in the center, we have the energy of the stars, and I think that that is indicating that there would be so much change pretty much overnight. I think it would be instantaneous change even. And it would be a moving away from this abusive behavior and into a new place where things can kind of start over and change for the better, because the star is a positive card and brings with it a lot of hopes and good wishes, wish upon a star type energy. So I think that is basically what we're seeing in the center. And then on this side of the stars, we have the bear, the birds, and the cross. And to me, this feels like a lot of big talk. Now, if you imagine if Trump were impeached, MAGA would pretty much completely crumble, fall apart. MAGA's tied inherently to Donald Trump. So we don't really know what it looks like without him. That whole movement would probably dissolve, fall apart. And to some extent, it already has, and a lot of people really just kind of jumped ship on him recently over the Epstein files. So I feel like over here, we've got this big burdensome conversation about how do we talk our way away from the MAGA movement. MAGA has been kind of a thing for like a decade. And so imagine the damage control that the Republicans would have to do. And they would be freed essentially from this prison that they're in now, where their senses are kind of, dulled and their voices are stifled and their eyes are wrapped so that they can't see the world around them. They have to just kind of go with whatever he says currently, but they would basically be free from that. And then they would be able to talk about the things that, the places where they diverge from his ideology. And not only would they be able to and have the opportunity to, they would have to. They would have to. So let's pull another card to go with this one. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of ways this could go. Obviously, the King of Wands energy, I think it could refer to Donald Trump to some degree. It could, kind of reference, although he usually comes here as the King of Swords. But the King of Wands, there's a level of narcissism there and fiery aggression. And they're essentially trapped underneath it right now. The big message here is probably, reframing themselves and trying to reestablish themselves in a way that corrects course. That's kind of what that feels like. And so that would be the conversation, the burdensome conversation that has to be had in order to move past Donald Trump after an impeachment. So let's take a look over here at the right side. We have the ring, the clouds, and the stork again. The stork is about movement and freeing yourself up and transforming and changing and going to a new place. It's also about being proactive and, kind of like changing things for yourself, whether it's convenient or inconvenient. And in the center, we have the clouds. Now, I think this applies really strongly because there's no way of really knowing right now, like, how does this move forward? There are so many ways it can go. We can speculate, like I said earlier about MAGA, we can speculate like that. We can, look to history for answers. But I think there are a lot of people, his closest cohorts outside of the administration, people that he has underhanded deals and dealings with, they don't know where they would go. I think that's the really specific message here. The people who have these commitments and contracts with Donald Trump, I think they would suffer the most. I think that they are probably fearful of him leaving. And it's funny how, one side over here, we have this group of people who want to be released and set free so that they can like reset and have a great reset. But then over here, we have people who their future is very uncertain without Donald Trump. And with the Hierophant card kind of coming through there, I feel like that's the baseline reference to societal standards. They don't know how to go back into society without this position that they've been in for so long. They've been in this place with Donald Trump in the trenches for so long that they really just don't know what comes next. And the star looking for guidance. Interesting that we have 2 stars on the table now. That's really kind of cool. Let's pull one more card. A celebration. the ultimate goal for these people, and again, we're talking about the shadowy alliances that we always, assign to the ring card. I think these people do fantasize about the day that they don't have to answer to Donald Trump. I think, with these two cards, the hopefulness, it's almost like you're dreaming of a celebration of freedom, of reward, but you're kind of bound to someone who's in control and in charge of basically your fate. Someone who calls the shots for you and decides, what your next move is. So I guess the real question here is, what would happen to Donald Trump if he were impeached? How would it look? Like, what would that look like? And this card, I think, wanted to come out, so... I'm glad I caught that on film, because that's pretty amazing. These three cards were together in the last reading, and I independently returned them to different parts of the deck, and then I poker shuffled, and then I overhand shuffled. Amazing that they came out together again. So it looks like there is a little bit of a story here that Tarot wants us to know. Do you all remember Mike Pillow, aka Mike Lindell? Big Mike Lindell vibes here, okay? If Trump were to be impeached, what would that look like for him? This is going to sound obvious, but it's right here in the cards. So, and they chose themselves, and they came out in the last reading as well. And I'll talk about their urgency in just a second, because I think that there is a reason that these three cards keep coming out in Trump readings today. So over here, we have relying on material things and being focused on self-sufficiency, okay? And then over here with the moon, we have deceit, deception, things being kind of upside down from reality or from a good place. They're reversed in a way. So with these two cards together, and I feel like these two definitely go together, this is Trump turning inwards to himself, to his worst habits, relying on his worst inclinations as a means of defense. And down here, we have him literally hanging on. And this would happen instantaneously if he were ousted by the Republican Party and the majority of people surrounding him right now. He would instantaneously regress into himself in the most selfish way possible. He would become 10 times worse than he is now, but in a Mike Lindell kind of way. Do you remember how Mike Lindell, before he just kind of vanished off the face of the earth, he had gone full-on conspiracy theorist, total nut, like he was on the Jimmy Kimmel show. I mean, the guy went off the rails. We've seen celebrities do wild stuff in the public eye, but I think Mike Lindell's situation kind of takes the cake until it happens to Trump. This would be the most hilarious way for him to go. I mean, not only would he be completely disgraced, but he would just be so unhinged that I think everybody would be mocking him, laughing at him, and that would only stoke the flames, make it worse, I have to laugh at this because I can just see it in my head. And I'm thinking about, do you remember when Donald Trump, right before the election, did the Zoom interview or Skype interview, whatever it was, with Elon Musk? And because he wasn't on camera, he felt comfortable to take his dentures out. So he sounded just like Daffy Duck. And I'm just imagining Trump having these Daffy Duck tantrums. And I think so many people would be emboldened to come out of the closet against him, and people you would never suspect. Maybe even people like Mike Johnson would take a few jabs at him. I think the disgrace would kill him. That alone would be too much for him to handle. But really interesting little story here. So this, again, just to recap, is if Trump were impeached, what would it look like? How would it play out? And I think Tara and Lenormand gave us a pretty good little story here. So let's get, we'll do like maybe one more. We'll do another spread. Now let's take a look at Donald Trump's biggest challenge in the new year. So we have 5 cards here, pretty simple Lenormand spread. And at the center, we have loyalists. On this side, we have short-lived happiness. And on this side, we have the degradation of someone's meaning or purpose. So I think there's a lot to be said about this, considering what is happening currently. We are seeing so many people leave Trump behind and just remove themselves from his movement and from his ideals. A lot of people are distancing themselves from him, and I think that's what this spread is showing us. Makes a lot of sense. His biggest challenge in the new year will be loyalty and partnerships from the people he used to consider the most loyal. Let's take a look first over here at the stars and the mice. I think this one is interesting. I think it has a lot of meanings too, multiple meanings, where on one side you could see that someone's hopes and dreams are kind of diminished and they start to see the cracks in the foundation where they're not getting their way like they used to. And I think that's exactly what he's going to experience in the new year, especially as we get closer to the release of the Epstein files and more emails are leaked. And, once we start seeing what is in that data, the things that are in that data, that's going to be enough to blow everybody's mind, I think. I think that it's time he faces accountability. And I know there are a lot of people out there who still say like, oh, look, he's done something else, but nothing will come of it. Well, I think that was definitely true in the past, but I don't think it's quite so true now. So, all right. So over here, remember, this is the short-lived happiness. This is the degradation of his purpose, his hopes, his dreams. So I think over here, interesting that these 2 cards came out yet again. Very specific message coming through with these 2 cards. And I think it's a loud and clear, America is tired. I think even the people who voted for him are tired. I think that it's time for a new direction. It's time for a new job to begin. And I think over here with these 3 cards and these 2 cards, there is something very specific happening here financially. We've got 2 high financial cards. This one is luxury and affluence and things like that. But this is also, don't forget, you're reaping what you've sown. And that's kind of, it's not really a positive or a neutral, because if you sow good things, and you sow positivity and happiness and prosperity and all the good things you can think of, if you sow those things, you'll reap those things. But Trump has sown something very different. And I think, with the fast movement toward the King of Pentacles, I think this is a reference to Jeffrey Epstein, because he comes through a lot as this card, his energy. And I think, simply put, reaping what he's sown as far as, what he did with Jeffrey Epstein. I think that is, like I've always told you all, it's the one thing that's got the momentum to absolutely destroy his reputation. And I know, you don't have to tell me in the comments. I know that we know he doesn't have a good reputation, but there are people out there who somehow think that, I guess he's highly regarded among some MAGA, or at least he was. I don't even feel comfortable saying that that's the current case with MAGA. I don't think MAGA's very happy with him right now. So honestly, it doesn't look like anybody is really left on Trump's side. And so his biggest challenge in the new year will be getting people to stay put, stay loyal to him, getting his loyalists to abide by the things that they've been willing to in the past. You know, the partnership. Let's draw another card or two for the Lovers, because the Lovers is really amazing coming out here with the Dog card. Those two cards are very similar. They have a lot of themes in common. Let's just get one more card, I guess, and then we'll wrap this video up. Oh, wow. Well, there you have it. The death of loyalty to Donald Trump. That's his New Year overarching energy. Wow. Holy cow. I'm glad I caught that on camera. Amazing. So for all the people out there who are always saying, you know, nothing's going to happen, Trump's never going to face accountability, you have to think about, what does accountability for Donald Trump look like? You know, jail time wouldn't really even be punishment to someone like him. He would find a way to spin it. I mean, sure, it would be inconvenient, it would be problematic, whatever. You know, I'm not saying that he would be okay with it, but what I am saying is that for someone with the very specific problems that Donald Trump has, in order to feel real repercussions of your actions, you've got to be hit in a very specific spot. And for him, that's his money, that's his power, that's his good name, you know, the respect that he thinks he has from people. Those are the things that he values most. And so those are the things that if they took a hit, he would feel the most pain for. And I think that's exactly what he is facing in the new year. All right, folks, let me know what you think in the comments about this. I will probably do some more little shorts like, well, this is not going to be a short video. I'll probably do some more videos throughout the end of the year as we get developments on the Epstein files that kind of tie in with this. So it won't be an official part 2 or part 3, but it'll be kind of a part 2 and part 3 where we look into Trump's new year and the new year predictions for him and the administration and so forth. Let me know if you enjoy this, if you would be interested in watching a couple more parts to this particular video. And I will definitely make them. Also, if there's any questions and stuff you want me to try to include in those videos, I will do my best. Just leave them down in the comments. In the meantime, let me know what you think about this. I always enjoy reading your thoughts and opinions, and I look forward to speaking with you in the comment section. Always fun and exciting. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe. Stick around. I will see you in the next video.